Hi, I'm Bryce. I'm currently in a recovery program at the Lighthouse Rescue Mission, and I've gone through a long road of recovery. The last 5 years of my life of kind of a struggle, mostly in my rebellion. I was born in Long Beach, California, and I grew up with a good childhood. A bunch of crazy stuff was going on at that time in my life. Since I didn't understand it, I didn't want to accept anything of it, so I just got outcasted and was told I was a bad kid. That was the beginning of my rebellion. I started to associate with gang members. I wasn't in a gang or anything, but associated with gang members. They saw that I had artistic ability and they asked me to do their graffiti around town. I did it, just to be that cool guy. That's where it all began, just my addiction. I started smoking marijuana and drinking alcohol and hanging out with the bad kids. And I always knew that bad company corrupts good morals, but I was like, I don't care. At that point in my life, God wasn't there. Well, he was there, but I had my back turned on him. And I wasn't aware of where I was going to move. I had never thought out of state, but I was just like, no, I hate my life. God doesn't exist. This is confirmation of it, and I got to do what I can now. So we got up there, and I did my absolute best to be the worst kid and the biggest embarrassment for my mother. And I went from there and started getting in trouble, doing more drugs and alcohol, put on probation, did 2 years of juvenile probation, 6 months in juvie, 6 months in jail, taught my time out. Became a free man at the age of 18, except I wasn't living with my parents. I was completely homeless. I was selling drugs to make a living, to eat. After a year passed of my addiction developing and becoming worse, I kind of hit the bottom of things where had no money, I had no more people, all those bridges had been burnt. How it played out was God. I actually started thinking about my life and what I was doing and how things were going, and they weren't going smoothly at all. I remember I was at the bottom. I was at a chapel service in Boise at their rescue mission, and I decided to go to a chapel meeting, and that's where I heard the book of James for the first time and paid attention to it. And the book of James actually brought me back to my relationship with the Lord, knowing that, Lord, I've been running from you for so long now, and I've denied you and said you weren't real, even though I knew you were real, and I lied to myself and drowned my sorrows to get away from you. I called my parents up and finally asked them to go to church to pick me up, and I started going to church with them, and they picked me up, and that's where this revival started in my life. Things changed after I got baptized, but then they stooped down and got really bad again because spiritual warfare was at its best. And I had all these questions going through my head. I feel like I was being attacked and tempted deliberately as much as possible. And I was just in this constant battle of being pulled back and forth. I relapsed, I started doing drugs and alcohol, selling drugs, running from probation, violating it. I finally got caught up with my friend as he was drunk driving one night, and the cops pulled us over, and I knew what was going on. I knew I was going to jail because I had that warrant, and I was ready to run. I had the door open, I was ready to run, but God just started speaking to me, and he was like, no, Bryce, don't do it. I'm still dealing with you right now. You need this in your life right now. You don't need to make things worse on yourself. Through the grace of God, he spoke through my judge outstandingly. I don't know how this happened, but the judge overrided what the state had to say. Gave me one more final chance and told me, Bryce Miller, I know that you have the capability of doing this probation. it had to have been God. And I prayed that the oppressed would go free, and this being me would be set free to go do what He wanted me to do. I still don't know what God has in store for me today, but I know He's working in me, and I know that through Him all things are possible. I saw the right path, and I saw the wrong path, and it was right before my eyes that God put this in front of me, and He showed me the people's addictions around me and what it was, and called my mom the next morning, and she thought she lost me because I stopped talking to her. She thought she lost her son again. And just calling her touched her heart so much she started crying over the phone. My probation officer was the duty officer that day, and he's only up there one day out of the month. And he was sitting at their front desk, and everything happened exactly how it needed to in order for me to get probation transferred over to Canyon County to do my recovery program. This whole last 5 years of my life has just been nothing but God's divine work that He's doing, and I'm just noticing all this now, that everything's happened for a reason. Like, through my backslide, my grandparents didn't know what to do but revert to prayer, and through them reverting to prayer brought them into a relationship with the Lord that I never thought I would see them be in. It doesn't matter what you say or what you've done in your past. It's the fact that God's brought you out of these relapses and out of these issues in your life. I don't know how God does it, but at the end of the day, He's still good, and He's brought me out of knee, mud deep, slippery, sinking sand. And He's just done some great things so far in my life. I've been sober for 3 months. It's the longest I've ever been sober out of jail. So you have to just be willing to change and submit and surrender to God's will, and you'd be surprised how well your life will go, how much better it will increase just in the 3 months of me changing my life and turning my life over to God. He's brought my family back into my life. It's really hard to explain it, but God's so real and passionate, and He loves each and every single one of us. God's good.